I'm going to spend some time on this topic, which is really about experts, intelligent machines and data, which are some interesting and important ingredients to drive transformative growth. We've all come a long way. By that I didn't mean get to this venue, but what I meant is from this agrarian economy, right, where the primary factor of production is this farmer, let's say the expert, who would sense weather conditions, soil conditions, and then deploy tools to serve his needs. To the industrial age, where the primary factor of production was the machine, and we had processes around these machines. To the computing age, where the primary factor of production is computing power and data. And here we are now, right? So what do we call this age, right? So I think Forrester says age of the customer. We might say, internally we keep saying it's the age of decision automation. But I guess end of the day, it doesn't matter what you call it. What we're really seeing is some tremendous change. Unlike in the past 3 waves, where you saw an emphasis on one primary factor of production, where it was the expert, in the second case it was the machine, and the third one it was around data. This time around something very different is happening, where we are seeing a simultaneous interplay of all of these 3 elements together, which is kind of causing this hurricane and is visible in the form of disruption across industries and companies. If you just look at data, and Sunil spoke about this yesterday, right? We've seen tremendous growth in data, but now we have different and very varied data. Voice is the new data, face is work in progress. I wonder what happens when they start reading our minds, right? And what companies are doing is they're taking all of this data along with sophisticated algorithms and putting it to very interesting uses or opportunities of value. So in the past, we used to be in a situation where we were stuck with data in silos. Well, many companies still are there. And we were moving to a situation where companies are putting together these data lakes and, as Manu showed, blending internal and external data to the future. But in reality, we've already started to see that the future is here. We are seeing cases where companies have freed this data that sits in silos, put it together with very smart algorithms, and tried to attempt real-time decision making. So in this situation, what's really happening is there's a lot of anxiety. With all of this change coming together, people don't want to miss the bus. Only difference is this time it's not going to be a bus, it's going to be a plane. So it's very important to see what's really going on and what can we learn from that. Unlike some of the other examples shared, which was say Netflix and sometimes Stitch Fix, etc., I'm not going to spend time on these examples. I'm going to spend time on some of our own work with clients, some of our own blockbusters, if you will, and then spend some time on reflecting upon the learnings that we've had through these examples. So I'll try to make sure I cover one example for distributor use case, one for a retailer, and one for a manufacturer. So I'd like to start with this blockbuster. I know we've kind of manipulated the names here. So this is for a distributor. The case is really about how do we improve their loss of sales and improve customer experience by providing product alternates. Now this is a large national B2B distributor. They basically bring the products from hundreds of or thousands of manufacturers to millions of customers, right? And they do this across a whole host of categories. The B2B distribution space is going through a very interesting time. There are a lot of acquisitions. So this client also recently acquired another distributor. And in the process of this acquisition, they rationalized a lot of SKUs and they had to integrate this new company into their internal platforms and internal processes. Now, in the process of rationalizing these SKUs, they did a not so good job in communicating that back to their sales team or onto their website. So if you were looking for this product, which is a toilet roll, and they had no, I mean, they had discontinued it, all you would get is this item is not available to purchase. They did not offer you an alternate product, right? Now, what made it worse is that for 80% of those products, there were no alternates. So you can imagine what a frustrating experience it is that when you go looking for this product, you don't find it and you don't get an alternate. Needless to say, their sales tanked by 10% in a quarter, and they had a very, very poor NPS. So we were called in to help them go from this situation, and we've helped them come to the situation on the right hand side, where now we have suggested replacement. So if this item is out of stock, they're able to then provide suggested replacements. That is, you say, okay, you could go for this product which has this high similarity or likelihood. This is the inventory availability by this location, this is the price, and this is the unit of measure. So how did we actually go from, helping them to actually get to these alternates? So the first and foremost is that spend a lot of time with their category managers, here again, the experts, to try to define the attributes in these categories. So if I take the example here, we'd work with them to say these are the attributes that really define the category, these are the attributes that describe the category. And this is important because then when we apply weights, you're able to then have algorithms do this work for you, right? So it is very important to have the buy-in and the expertise of category managers. The next step is data, right? There's been no exercise we've been involved in where we've ever come across clean data sitting in one place, right? I think that's like nirvana. So here again, you can see, though it's really about a lot of product content information, it sits across multiple systems. In fact, they have, John will feel better, they have 14 PIMs within the same company. So trying to piece this, and I think like Deepa said, duplicates, yes, you then find duplicates of products because they are the same product sitting in different systems. So tying all that together and then constructing algorithms, and I think Brandon called that out, algorithms are a commodity. So, and there's a lot of open source stuff out there. So, you have an opportunity to really try a lot of things out there. So we tried algorithm 1, 2, 3, 4 before we arrived at an algorithm that would work. Because if you look at it, when we applied the algorithm, at first pass, product 219 was suggested as an alternate to product 427 because it had a high score. But when you dig deeper, you'd see that they're not really the same type of a towel. One is a single fold, one is a multi-fold. So there's a lot of expectation that the algorithm will do your job. It will take a lot of effort to get it to do your job. So on the second and the third iteration, as you tune the algorithm, you sort of improve the data set, you'd come to a situation where a better product alternate is suggested and it matches some of the defining attributes, right? Now, an important point again to emphasize that, sometimes they say AI is more artificial than intelligent. What actually will drive that intelligence, as we've seen here, is that we can use a lot of open source, put together the right algorithm, right? So we try various algorithms, we put it here. So when the input comes to this, there is a lot of need and work around having experts validate that. That's though you have a trained data set, there's a need to constantly improve that, and it's a field called active machine learning. So if you take driverless cars, it's not that you've trained it once and you let it go. You have to constantly keep training that to make sure that it remains relevant and does a good job. So as a result, this combination of algorithms, good data, and these experts then result in us having various types of alternates. So then I have an exact, I have an equivalent, I have an alternate, I have a similar. And then when you look at this, you surface this effectively, unlike in the past, right? In the past, the client would not have this alternate, and B, what we're doing this time around is we'll show available items. We'll show items which are well stocked rather than just items that are alternates, right? So this has been very beneficial to this particular distributor. They've actually seen sales go up. They went up by 5%, but it took 6 months to get there. They've seen a very positive change to NPS. The second story is that of a retailer. So this is a little take on a different movie. Yeah, so they wanted to get all their SKUs on all channels. So this retailer, the story is about rapidly onboarding their SKUs. I think John also spoke around the same topic. Now this, in fact, is a large department store that has like mass merchandise, kids, toys, home stuff. They were doing extremely well in a store world. All their operations are well designed for a store world. And they weren't doing as well or weren't very well prepared for an online world. So if John was showing those examples, look at the kind of product content here. It's just three bullet points there. That's all, right? So it's clearly not going to work in an era where consumers are starting their journeys online. So they realize that, hey, we need help in making sure we have a capability to bring these SKUs online quickly. What was really coming in the way here was that they had very limited product data. Data was all over the place. They didn't have a single source of truth, and they didn't have content standards. Now, we've seen this many places over, so we were very confident saying that this should not be a difficult problem to solve. We can extract attributes, be it from a web page, be it from a system, be it from a PDF. So this should not be difficult. We can extract attributes. We have algorithms which can classify. So you give us a piece of title or text and we can classify that, or you give us some description of the product and we can classify that. So this shouldn't be too difficult. You can extract attributes, classify, and get all of this stuff in place very quickly. Now the twist here was that 60% of the products are private label, and the client says that we don't really manage that information well. We keep changing our mind till the very last minute. We don't know where we have finally saved what we finally agreed to do. So, and then each category person is different. So how do you solve that problem? So collectively we stumbled upon the problem with the client and we said, hey, what if we looked at that thing that is a more reliable source, which could be the packaging material. So we looked at the packaging material that they would have, and then we wrote an algorithm that would extract information from this package, from this image, right? You got a pack. So what this algorithm does is it extracts, you see in the brackets are probabilities. So it says 88% probability, it's a lamp, it's a night lamp, it's a table lamp, and it throws a whole host of information. What is the color and stuff like that, So we then say, okay, we've got these attributes, and then looking at taking these attributes, that is, we've got these attributes, and then as Brandon mentioned that, using natural language generation to then convert that into a product description, right? So very quickly we're able to look at this. Of course, it sounds, in hindsight, it is not very quickly because you had to train it a bit. But the good part is in their packaging, there's some bit of standardization. So you can train their algorithm to pick this from here and pick this from here. Now, what has resulted as, because what is the advantage we've had is, we have our own, machine learning suite, which is called Ugam's Jarvis, which has a whole host of these algorithms which can help image analysis, sentiment extraction, attribute extraction. So what's been helpful is having some of these tools along with the client expertise and data has actually helped us improve the SKU onboarding process. Now we are doing it 3 times faster, and we're doing it before the product hits the store. The third example is an example from luxury. So luxury is going through a lot of change thanks to digital. There's younger, savvier customers. The important thing is luxury brands now are not able to manage the message so effectively thanks to everybody having a point of view on social and reviews and ratings. So they can't really control the message. And there's a significant rise in e-commerce. So the price becomes very transparent. You start seeing behavior of accessibility and discounting, which kills the whole idea of luxury. Luxury should not be accessible, and that makes it luxury. It should not be discounted, that makes it luxury. So this is a very large luxury group that did not have visibility on what's going on across the world, across a whole host of their brands, across a whole host of their categories. It's complicated because trying to understand what's happening across markets requires capability across languages. Data is in various languages. The sites across various countries in the world are set up very, very differently. So we've been able to help them get to some very interesting KPIs. So they're looking at a whole host of KPIs, saying what's my share of search? What is my share of shelf? What is my out of stock situation compared to competitors? How do I do on price? How do I do on promotions, right? So it's very interesting to see them make this transition. It's still very early days, it's month 4, and they made this transition from I feel, and this was the CFO saying this, to I know. This is a comment he made, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, saying that I feel that we were probably less competitive in the US, but I know that's not the case. So it's good to see that change. So when you look at some of these examples or some of the other of our own blockbusters, there are lots of them. I thought it's important to sit back and reflect on some of the learnings, and some of those points have kind of been covered here. So one of them is really, is this problem worth solving? So many a times what happens is we find that there is a lot of investment or emphasis on the answer than on the problem. And that over-investment or emphasis on the answer impedes discovering the right problem. So what's very important, and important learning, is important to take the time to understand and frame that problem and try to truly understand whether that problem is worth solving in the first place. The second key learning is that some of this thing does not work by just dipping your toes in. It takes failure, it takes iteration, it takes learning. So you have to try, and you can see that in the experience John shared. It's a real experience. You're going to have to try and you're going to fail. So you have to be patient with that. You have to stay invested in making that happen. Robert covered this yesterday. We've clearly seen that this is a team sport. It needs a lot of varied skills. So it may come from internal teams, external teams, or a hybrid combination thereof. As we saw from that hurricane picture, the disruption is so fast, it's very rare that any company will have all of these skill sets at the time that they need to have it, right? So making sure you're configuring the right teams and motivating them to get there really works. The other important learning is that this clean data is hard work. You have to do it every day, but nobody does it every day. So then it piles on and on and on. And then you have to make business cases as to why this is so important. But my only point is it's an investment. So if you're trying to short circuit this and get to the answer without wanting to invest in it, it's pointless. So please take the time. We have seen cases where even companies define promotion differently. They define DIFOT differently. Like I think Brandon's saying, how do we define a customer? So it's important to really take that time and get this sorted. It's very instrumental in getting it right. And then there's a whole host of literature now. It's a very hot topic. But my only key suggestion is that invest in yourself and in your teams to improve your literacy around the business essence of this work. There's so much jargon around there. There's so many complicated terms that are used. It is important an investment to make so that you can get the best out of this. And the last one is really let ideas mate. As we saw in that second example, we may have had a few areas of IP or expertise, but then when we bring that together with clients, we ideate and we put things together, we kind of get lucky and are able to solve problems. So it's always nice to have a learning ecosystem to make sure we get good results. So we are kind of back where we began with the farmer. The only difference is this time around, the farmer is more empowered. He is the same expert, but he has intelligent machines. Hopefully the drone he's doing some work with that. and he has a lot more data. And this is clearly going to show up in significant improvements in the yield that he's going to get. So this is not going to remain limited to an industry. It's going to actually impact a whole host of industries. So before I kind of end, since we're on the blockbuster theme, to end with a dialogue from a very interesting blockbuster. So if you guys have followed this movie, there's a very interesting line which says that not everyone can become a great artist, but a great artist can come from anywhere, as we are all noticing or observing. Not everyone can disrupt, but disruption can come from anywhere, so we need to be prepared. And these three ingredients, if you think hard about it, namely the experts, these intelligent machines and data, are some vital ingredients that you want to consider as you go down this path of transformative journey or disruption. Thank you very much, guys.